Welcome back, everyone. In this episode, I'm going to talk about why momentum is irrelevant for whitetail deer hunting, or at least usually. That setup won't kill a deer, its momentum's too low. Kinetic energy says velocity squared, so obviously velocity is more important. My heavy arrow could penetrate an elephant and keep flying around the world thanks to its mass. If you've ever dipped your toes into the archery forum world, you've doubtlessly heard these arguments play out. But who is right? Is momentum king? Is it all about velocity, or does it all come down to mass? In this episode, we'll put this question to rest, or we'll stir up a hornet's nest in the comments, which drives the algorithm. So please feel free to tell me how wrong I am in the comments. Let's try to keep it civil. Energy is king. As I explained in the previous video, there's two types of energy. I won't take the time to explain that all in detail, but here's a summary, if you remember. You have energy, it's been transferred to something, and that something's holding on to it. The energy is said to be potential energy. So you can think of this like the energy being held in the gunpowder in the round of an ammunition. It's just sitting there. It's not doing anything yet. The energy your body put into the limbs of the bow or a crossbow. The energy it took you to climb your sorry self up a tree 25 feet at 5 in the morning because you forgot how out of shape you are. When the energy's been released and it's put into a body and that body is in motion, that's called kinetic energy. So think of the powder burning and releasing a huge amount of gases that's going to push that bullet out of the path of least resistance, which is hopefully the end of your barrel if you haven't been letting your rifle fall in the snow. Or the energy of the arrow or bolt whistling downrange, hoping to hit the animal you're trying to target and not the tree next to it because you forgot to check your sights after you dropped your bow for the 10th time. Or the energy in the split second of panic as you realize your climber's base has slipped off the beech tree you decided was in the perfect location, even though you know climbing beech bark is like trying to run barefoot across a sheet of ice. Yeah, we know what energy is, but what is momentum? That's what we're here for, right? If you took introductory calculus in high school, you might notice the equation for kinetic energy and momentum look eerily similar. It's because they are. If you didn't take nerd kid math, let me help you. Kinetic energy is 1/2 times mass times velocity squared, and the derivative of that is just mass times velocity, which is just the equation for momentum. So the other way to state that is that the integral of momentum is kinetic energy, and sorry, I just had to pretend the years of math they taught me in school was actually useful in day-to-day life. So what is a derivative then? The derivative is just used to understand the rate of change of an equation. Wait, where have I heard that before? Oh yeah, acceleration is just the rate of change of velocity. So if you understand velocity in this relationship to acceleration, the relationship between kinetic energy and momentum should feel pretty similar. Great nerd, but what is momentum then? Momentum is just the measure of how much one body will be able to impart its energy into another in the event they collide. You mean like an arrow and a deer? Well, yes, but also no. All right, come on, look. Look how much time is left in this video. You didn't really think I was going to let you off without more math and physics, did you? Okay, but at the start of this video you said momentum wasn't important, and it sounds exactly like what I'm looking for. Well, here's the thing about momentum that it won't tell you at parties. It really only works as a good measurement for objects that are completely rigid. For example, let's say you have a bowling ball flying at 100 miles per hour in space, and there's a marble flying back at it at 100 miles per hour as well. So the bowling ball is going to have thousands of times more momentum than the marble because its mass is thousands of times more. Remember, momentum is just mass times velocity. When they impact, you can simply compare their momentums and their directions to understand what's going to happen. So if the two hit each other perfectly square, the marble will slow the velocity of the bowling ball proportionally to its momentum, which is they are going the same speeds determined only by the ratio of their masses. So the marble will suck away a bit of that energy the bowling ball was carrying, and thus it's going to reduce its velocity and therefore decrease its momentum. The marble is going to fling off in the other direction at a velocity that's proportional to the momentum loss of that bowling ball. And because that marble is so much lighter, it won't just be going that 99 miles per hour back in the other direction like the bowling ball. It'll be going way faster than that. Thanks, momentum. Okay. Enough math, enough physics. What does this really mean for arrows and deer? Well, it does mean something. All All right. The problem is it means so little, it's almost worthless when comparing two arrow setups for the same bow. This is where the curtain gets pulled back and you realize the latest craze is actually a fat guy controlling a television. So if you don't want to hear it, then please click out to another video now. For everybody else, here's a scoop. The amount of energy your bow can store is set mostly by your genetics and your gym habits for bow hunters and by the manufacturer for the crossbow hunter. This is what we talked about in the last video. The energy is not created, it's not destroyed. It's taken from your muscles and put into the limbs of that bow or the crank if it's a crossbow. At least one of the fancy new crossbows that have cranks. So the draw length and the draw weight of the bow you shoot determines most of how much of the kinetic energy and therefore how much momentum you will impart, i.e. how many feet you pull times how many pounds, kinetic energy, foot-pounds. I should note, newer bows are a bit more efficient than older bows at converting the energy your body put into the limbs back into kinetic energy of that arrow or bolt. But if I increase the weight of my arrow, the mass goes up, so I should get more kinetic energy. Well, no, because you'll get a decrease in velocity of the projectile that corresponds to maintaining that kinetic energy, or just about. So again, you're still pulling the same poundage, the same distance. All right, I'll admit, heavy arrows and bolts do generate more kinetic energy and therefore momentum. But they do this by staying in contact with the string for a split second longer, allowing the efficiency of the setup to increase a bit. But this is an increase in kinetic energy and momentum that's very small compared to the velocity that's given up, and therefore the increased time it gives the animal to react. Okay, so this is starting to make sense. But why is momentum of little importance for whitetail hunting? Well, hunting's not about hitting the deer and propelling it backwards. It's about putting a sharp point through the vital organs of an animal to harvest it in the quickest, most humane way possible. Penetration is therefore the name of the game, and the amount of energy provided at the instant the arrowhead contacts the target is what really matters, followed by how well the arrow or bolt can pass through the material it strikes. A secondary concern is deflection, and this is where heavy arrows do shine. With their higher momentum, and because this is a type of movement of two bodies against each other and not one through the other. So let's bring this all together. Momentum of a flying arrow or bolt means very little for most of the ranges and shot placements that a whitetail hunter is going to take. Momentum of impacting a hard area of an animal is a concern, but so is getting the arrow or bolt there before the animal can duck it. And just when you thought this velocity versus mass debate was settled, next episode, is your arrow's velocity killing your penetration?
Telling lies, cold October day, drinking beer, trying not to hear the words he has to say. Come on boys, watch a salmon run. It's headed for the trout hole, then Mountain got his gun.